Yeah, just a little. It's like the day's going to start over again. No, I got about 5:25, so we'll ignore that clock. I'll go get a battery, maybe at the end or something, so we're good to go on Wednesday. So I guess I didn't get the quiz for last Wednesday, so I'll follow back up. I thought, anyway, I went home and I forgot about it, I guess. So when Thursday was kind of busy, so I'll get that up and posted. But remember, you can always, I guess, two things. You can always watch the live streams or the recordings of the live stream if you go to the YouTube channel. And this will help some of you, or actually it'll help all of you. I'm also offering, at least through spring break, so you have the next 2 weeks, if you'll subscribe to the channel, it'll get you so that you can see it makes it easier to get to it, and I'll give you extra credit, 10 points of extra credred.
I saw that part.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
If you subscribe to the YouTube that he's on,
So
then you get an extra 10 points.
What's the channel?
Open Global Village. In fact, why don't we make that the word of the day? Here we are. It's just all one word. At least the YouTube channel, it all runs together. You could also, if you go to any of the live streams, it'll take you, just click on the YouTube and it'll take you right to it. I'll show you in just a moment. Let's see. Open Global Village. I wouldn't necessarily sign up for the notifications because every time I do a class you'd get a notification, so you only really want it for this one. But everything I record for this class I put MAT091 in front. So it puts it into a playlist. So let me just show you. So we'll make this the word of the day. I guess I should write word of the day. And go ahead and go to Canvas. Again, the front page will show you the most recent video that I've done. So this was probably, lesson 6. So this is what we were working on last time. So even though I haven't got it posted, it's right here. If you start playing it, what you can do is click on this YouTube down here. It takes you to YouTube and the channel. Let's see if it shows up. And if you haven't subscribed, this will be red. I've already subscribed to it myself, so just, figure if I'm asking you, why not I subscribe to my own channel, right? I just click on here, and then it puts it in your YouTube thing, and maybe you'll be able to see it easier. You can always unsubscribe at some point if it gets obnoxious for you. But again, I just wouldn't. I would recommend not signing up for notifications. You can also go here. If you just start typing in Open Global Village, there's our channel. The other benefit you get is if you're interested in learning how to cook Thai food, my wife's posting Thai cooking channel, so it's really good stuff. I get to eat it, so she'll show you how to cook some Thai food. There's some meditation. And then there's all the classes are also, if you come to the main page, they're listed here. So here's MAT091. That's listed. If you want to see some other, if you got friends from other classes who want to look at them, I don't know why they would, but they're all here. So all the classes I teach, you can, so they're there. And then when you take 141, I've got not just lesson videos, but I've actually worked through a lot of the problems. So I've got a lot of my problem videos in there, and that's because I teach that one as an online class. So those are all there, and whatever else. So that'll get you 10 points of extra credit. Once you do, I get a notice someone subscribed, but sometimes if you've got a different name for if you signed up for YouTube, like, I don't know. We get lots of interesting ones, but I don't necessarily know who they are. So just send me an email or something. Let me know you subscribed, and I'll get the points in there. Actually, I should update the gradebook so that you can give me your information right in there, but we'll just do it like that for now. And I'll continue this through the end of spring break, but after spring break, extra credit goes away. So try to, if you can just subscribe now, and forget about it, and then the rest of the semester you'll have access to all the videos, maybe in a slightly easier format. Okay. This afternoon I picked up the tests from the testing center. I've got those graded. They're entered into Canvas. If you took it through the testing center and wanted to take a look, I can have you take a look at the sheets. I've got the test and the Scantrons, so you can take a look. What I'm thinking of doing is, I realize we kind of almost have overkill on this section. So this is our syllabus. Here we are tonight at March 5th. We're going to go over Unit 6, but we got through a lot of it last Wednesday, right? I don't know. I forgot what happened last Wednesday, but anyone else was here that knew what? Did we get through 6?
I don't think we did.
Not all the way.
Not all the way, but
We were like 6-3.
so we'll pick it up.
Just, I guess, the practice.
If you wanted to retake the test, we talked about like a date for that.
Yeah, that's what we're doing right now.
Okay.
Aren't quite there, but yeah, you're one step ahead. So that's what I meant. Yeah, I want to see how far we've gotten, how far we need to go. I'm thinking we'll do a good job of finishing up 6 tonight. So here's what I'm looking at. When we come back from spring break, we're 7, 8, and then a whole week of review before the test. So what if? Here's what I'm thinking is maybe either.
Spring break early.
Well, yeah, if you didn't need to retake the test, you wouldn't have to come this Wednesday. We could do this Wednesday as a retake, or we could do this Tuesday as a retake. So you could come back, again, if you've done fine on your test, maybe we could do both. I don't know.
Sounds good.
Probably not, because that would cut out Chapter 7. That leaves really one day for 7. Although we could do 7, 8, a day of review and then a test. It's kind of like how much review do you think you need, and how much?
I'd be down to take the test on Wednesday.
So we've got one person who would want to retake it on Wednesday. Anyone else? Or
You're talking about units 1 through 4, right?
Yeah.
That's-
yeah, the
Just
first
to
test.
retake that, I'll still fresh.
So doing it before spring break. Why don't we do that? I'll make this. And if you need more time, we could still use the testing center, and after spring break, because I know some of you who have just took it last week, you won't know how you did, and then maybe you're going to need some time. Spring break might be a good time to review. So after spring break, we wouldn't do it during class time necessarily, except if we had some extra time, we could do it. So I think we could do a good job of 7. We could do 8 here. We got 2 days to review. We could also do maybe one of them, seeing how far we get. There'll probably be some time to retake it. Yes.
So there would be like after spring break, like you could possibly there'd be an option to retake it then.
Sure.
Okay.
I'll work with you. So this Wednesday is just a retake test 1 through 4 if you need to. If you don't need to, I wouldn't come. Otherwise, you're just going to sit here and watch a lot of other people taking a test, right? Because while they're taking a test, we really can't talk about too much. People say, well, can you tutor me? I said, well, not really, because that's, yeah. So I'll make it open for a retake. It'll still be a 15-question test, the same types of questions. And I've got everybody's test, so let's kind of make a, oh Gotta stop looking at that. That's not even correct.
It's wrong.
It's completely wrong. We'll get through 6 here fairly well whenever we get it, make sure we understand it. And then those who want to maybe take another second look or a first look at your test to kind of review them, you could do that. We had a practice test, didn't we?
Yeah.
Like 24 questions. You might want to have that and kind of compare what you missed and then maybe make a mark on the practice test so that can give you something to study for. And then Wednesday we will have a very similar 15 questions. But again, the ones you got right, as long as you understood them, you're fine. The ones you missed, you can study those heavily. And
So you're just saying that really all we have to do is study for the ones we missed? We don't have to redo the ones we got right? Or do we have to do the whole
you'll have to
test?
do the whole thing,
Okay.
but I'm hoping that the ones you got right you feel good about, that they weren't just guesses. But again, you might need a look. You might have got something right that was a complete guess. So yeah, as long as you know what you're doing.
Do you have my test or do I need to?
I do. I got everybody's test. So yeah, because it's a department test and they're all doing it, it's kind of have to have test security even to let you see it. Taking fingerprints and
DNA test.
DNA test, make sure you're the right. No, we'll let you see them. So let's plug away into 6, so that we can feel nice and comfortable, and that'll be the end of the content until spring break. When we come back from spring break, that's when we'll pick up 7 and 8. Those will be nice and fresh. We'll have a whole week to, review back over 5 and 6. That's probably why I gave the 2 extra days for review, because of that spring break in between. Okay. Come Wednesday, if you want to retake the test, or if you just want to study, I guess you could do that. But that's what we'll make Wednesday for. It's no new content, just a chance to retake the
Catch up
test.
too.
Sure. Again, I won't be able to. Well, people are taking tests, but yeah, if you had questions and stuff, I'll still be here. So, okay. Does that sound fair? Okay. So take that out. Pull up here, and we'll take a look. Logging in. So again, Unit 5 was really just graphing, and again, that's a good one to go back and review. Someone had mentioned we didn't get to live stream that day because of issues, so I'll go back and do a little video myself of that. And remember, there's always the media lessons as well. Let's pull up. Let's see, how far did we get? We talked about this discrete, where the dots are not connected, remember? So that's like if it's a package, you don't open the package and sell half a package, you either sell 1 or 2 or 3. So that was that concept. There's graphing we did. We took a look at things like this. So we took a look at an equation and we plugged in the let's see if I can get it all on the page. Just a real quick overview. So we took this point, say negative 2, 6. What did we do with this point, negative 2, 6?
You plugged it in for X and Y.
Okay, so which one is the X and which one's the Y?
X is negative 2.
Okay, so X comes first, Y is the second, and we plugged it in here. X went there with the X, Y went in for the Y, and we tried to see whether both sides equaled 6, right? Because the right-hand side is 6, so if we do that, we get 6, then what did we say?
Yes.
It satisfies the equation, and we plotted those points. We saw that not only did it satisfy, all of these points satisfied the equation, they also all they also were on the same line. Okay? So is that kind of sounding familiar? that's what we did. Take an equation, plug in the points, see if it satisfies. We got all the way to like 6. We got through 6.3, but not into 6.4. So we did some of these. Remember I showed you sort of a shortcut for graphing these, but you could plug in each of these values for x, figure out what y is, plot the points. We also talked about slope, rise over run, so we'll take a look at that. What did we talk about this one?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
You said not,
You said
you-
not what
you
you
the-
said.
Good. This is the one we wanted to skip. So I just wanted you to be aware of that. So this was the one to skip. And why did we skip this one?
the exponent.
The exponent gives us an x squared. The graph ends up being like a U-shaped thing. So you have to graph a lot of points. It's a lot of work for a very little payout because it's... Is that? Yeah, something like that. Some of these other things. This looks like it must be a... maybe that's what they were doing. They thought it was important, but it's not on the test. So I said, you know, let's not spend a lot of time doing... And you'll get plenty of time if you go into 120 to do these types, but a number of you won't be going, you'll go into 141, you won't even take a look at these. So this is one with the exponent we're going to skip. And if you remember, we skipped the next two as well. So we skipped this one, which was an exponential. Again, this is covered very deeply in Math 121. And if that's your track, you'll get a good look at it then, and that's a good time to do it. Right now, it doesn't really fit with what I want you to focus on. It takes us away. It's a tangent. It's like, you know, we're talking about math, and then all of a sudden Little Crow starts talking about his summer vacation, and you say, what does sitting on the beach in Hawaii have to do with math, right? And absolutely nothing. So that's about what that is. And then this is an absolute value. You see some of these people so I think the class before us is the same. I know the guy who has this before us, so it's a 91, and they went ahead and did a lot of them. And I think it's great. And again, if you're taking 150, you'll end up doing a lot of them, but you'll do plenty of them in 150. They only do 1 or 2, so you don't really do enough to get you anywhere, so we're going to skip those ones. Aha, this is the one that I want to focus on because I want you to have the energy, the mental capacity to do a really strong job on these and understand something that's very simple but so easy to mix up as well, okay? So I want you to focus on intercepts in this lesson. If you come away with nothing else except intercepts, I'll maybe plug into equations. Always one more thing, right? Plugging into equations and intercepts, that's what is the important part. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about these, or maybe more than we thought. In fact, I thought we started talking. So we're going to start. We'll come back maybe. Maybe we talked about this. Maybe we left off, but we'll start here. What's a vertical intercept? Okay, so the vertical axis, good, is, let me draw the line, blue to blue. The vertical axis is this one. Yes, it's the y-axis. Put that in blue. When we're on the y-axis, though, there's something sort of unique that happens. What is a coordinate on the y-axis always going to look like? What is the coordinates? Okay, what is 0 and then a number, and this one looks like 3 if I did that right. So y, no, x.
It's backwards, right? Because you said the horizontal was x and then 0.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a number. Okay, never mind. Go ahead.
Good. See how easy it is to confuse. I still get myself confused on these sometimes. So that's why it's an important issue. The vertical axis, the y-axis, is where x is 0. Okay. X is 0 and then a number. Okay. And again, that's a major thing. If you can remember that, that'll take you. You'll be working stuff. Even if you become a math major, you'll be working on this stuff. But again, sometimes they don't emphasize that the x is 0, but when they want a vertical intercept, what you know is the input value is always 0. The x is always 0. The coordinates of the vertical intercept will always be 0 comma something. That something is a y value. And to determine the vertical intercept, set x equal to 0. So it's kind of like 0, 0, 0, but this always x 0. X is, okay? So when we're looking for the vertical intercept, x is 0. Does that make sense? Good. So then the other thing, let's switch colors here. What's a good horizontal color? How about purple? Or violet, I guess they call it. So the horizontal intercept is when it crosses the horizontal axis or the x-axis. And so any point on here, again, since we go horizontally first, would have an x value, but the y would be 0 because we don't go up or down. Okay, so the coordinates of everywhere here has some x value, but y is the thing that's always going to be 0. Okay, so the output value of the horizontal intercept is always 0. The coordinates of the horizontal intercept, x comma 0. Incidentally, on a multiple choice test, the one first thing you want to look for, if the question is asking for a horizontal intercept, check your answers. Anything that doesn't have y equals 0 isn't a horizontal intercept. You can get rid of them. So oftentimes you're able to eliminate one or two wrong answers from the test, like we did last time. Remember the 25 questions? We'll have 25 questions again. They're all multiple choice. Part of the strategy is how do you get rid of wrong answers? So to determine the horizontal intercept, well, how do we determine the horizontal intercept? We simply plug in 0 for y. That's guaranteed to give us a horizontal intercept. Guaranteed. 100% of the time. What other things give you 100% guarantee? Not much, right? Even you go to your favorite restaurant, you can't be guaranteed to get a good meal. Sometimes the cook just had a bad night, right?
Or the service is bad.
Or the service is bad. Or you're in a bad mood and you don't enjoy it because there's all sorts of things. But intercepts are guaranteed, 100%. Okay? So let's just take a picture of that because that's the main part. If you'll remember that, everything else is just going to fall into place. Every question starts with vertical intercept, x is 0, horizontal intercept, y is 0. I have to look at my cheat sheet, right? But it's, like I said, it's simple, but it's also simple to get them mixed up, isn't it? I think so. Okay, so we got a picture of that. We might have even done this, but I think it bears doing a second time. Let's see what some of these problems are going to look like. I don't think we actually did this one, did we?
Yeah,
Okay.
we did this one,
We might have, we did do it.
but it's alright to do it again.
Okay. Don't mind. Okay, so yeah, one way is using vertical and horizontal intercepts to plot a graph. So again, you just come down and let's plug in 0 for x for one of them, plug in 0 for y for the other point, and let's see what it is. So if we plug in 0 for x, what is y going to be? So we get y equals 3 times 0 minus 2. Y equals 0 minus 2, negative 2. Just the point 0, negative 2. Finish that off. 0, negative 2, so we got a point there. When we plug in 0 for y, that's typically a little bit harder. So we put in 0 equals 3x minus 2. Now I'm remembering it. And we have to solve for x. So horizontal intercepts are always a little bit harder, but they're good practice too. So nothing too new. And then how do we get x by itself?
Take 5 back.
Divide by 3. Good. So you see, as we go forward, we still take the stuff we've been doing back from lesson 3. It's just that we're kind of expected to remember it all. And this, I remember this one because people wanted to think that 2/3 is just a number. It's like 0.666.
You said it was 3/1 when you run and divide.
Right, because so if we look at this as a slope, we look at the number in front of the x as 3/1, and we'll see how that works. So 0 2/3, 0 2/3 is less than 1, so it's going to be about there. Okay, so it's kind of an estimate, and then what we do is we go to our line drawer, and let's draw it in green, and I'll just go from here. See how accurately I can go through that. Oops, always go down this way, try to draw somewhat accurately. And then we start to see, okay, from here, if I go up 1, 2, 3, and then over 1, I'm back on the line. Up 1, 2, 3, and over 1, my line's a little bit off. I should have really been over there. But what we're going to start looking at is that our line started at -2. That was the vertical intercept. That's right there in the equation. And that this number in front of the x gives us something called the slope, or the steepness of the line. And it's comprised of rise over run. So we think of it as 3/1. So every time the x goes over by 1, the y is going to go up by 3. Okay, and it sort of did it, but when you have 2 points that are this close together and we're estimating 1, we're a little bit off when we drew it. Okay, bringing back memories. Okay.
And it still applies what you do to one side, you do to the other, right?
When we have an equation,
When you have
yes.
an equation.
Yes, when you have an equation, that's always true. Yes. Okay. Then let's move forward a little bit more. Another example. This actually is set up in a nice way to find the intercepts because it's got both the x and the y on the same side. And it's a media lesson, so I'm going to let you take a look at that one. But use the intercepts. Okay, horizontal and vertical lines. This is where I wanted you to have a little bit. Let's before we go on to that, let's just take a look at this last one since we didn't work it yet. So this will be the last new part, and then we'll look at horizontal and vertical lines. Okay. So how do we determine the vertical and horizontal intercepts? Starting with the vertical, what do we do first? Vertical intercept means what?
X is 0.
X is 0. And that's really all you want to think. That's what horizontal intercept means.
Y is 0.
Y is 0. So we'll plug those in. Okay, so we'll take the first one. Take our equation, y equals 24 minus 6x. We're going to put 0 in for x. Zero times 6, 0, y equals 24. So after a while, you just say, okay, it's going to knock this thing out. It's just 24. You might not even write things down. You just look at it and say, yeah, 0, 24. Find the horizontal intercept. We put 0 in for y. So we put the 0 over here, and then we copy down 24 minus 6x. What do we do to find what x is? By what?
6.
We'll do that, but what do we want to do first?
24.
Good. So, yeah, we're going to divide by negative 6, but we want to get rid of the 24 from the side first. If you did it right, you could divide everything by negative 6 first, but how's that? Remember, because these cancel, this is 0. Now what do we do? Divide by the negative 6. Again, on both sides. What you do to one side, you got to do to the other. That's 1, so that's just giving us 1x, or just x. 24 divided by 6, 4, and negative divided by negative is positive, so it's going to give us a positive 4. So we got our 2 points, got our 2 vertical intercept, horizontal intercept. And again, the design of this, they didn't give us a graph to work with, but 0, 24 gives us a point like way up here. 4, 0 gives us a point like about here, and then we're able to connect them and draw a line. Okay. Notice the line's going downhill. It's decreasing. And notice it's a negative 6 for the slope, so that negative slope. Well, and again, these will be connecting. Actually, a lot of this stuff with slope is you're going to see it in lesson 9. So it's not even on the next test. Okay, so far so good. So the main thing is intercepts. Vertical intercept, we plug in 0 for what? X. For a horizontal intercept, we plug in 0 for y. Good. And if you remember those, that's really all you're going to need to remember out of that. Okay. So now, the most confusing simple thing around. Now that we've talked about horizontal and vertical intercepts, we're going to talk about horizontal and vertical lines. What is a horizontal line?
Goes left to right.
Goes left to right. So we've got this one, y equals 2. So if I draw a line, actually let me do lines. Y equals 2. Does it make sense that this horizontal line, that y is always 2? X is changing, but y is always 2. The problem is we think of the horizontal axis as being the x-axis, which it is, but on a horizontal line, x changes, but y doesn't, because it doesn't go up or down. So the y is not changing. Y has 0 change. X can be many different points. So the equation for a horizontal line is always going to be y equals a number. And you get a horizontal line at that number. So if I had y equals 5, where would it be? Right up here at 5. Okay. Y equals negative 6, right down here at negative 6. A horizontal. So a horizontal line always has an equation. Y equals a number. There's no x involved, because x could basically be anything. And so as the thing is if you try to put the ordered pairs, once we've drawn this, right, is this point on the line? Yeah, negative 5, 2. Is this point on the line? Yeah, negative 2, 2. Is this point on the line? Yeah, 5, 2. And there's a lot of points in between there that are on that line. So basically, x can be anything, y is always going to be 2. It's a horizontal line. So whenever you see something with all the y values the same, what kind of a line do you have? Horizontal. That's all there is to it. But again, I think it's this horizontal vertical thing that some of us just really struggle. And I put myself in that. Okay, but that's all there is to it. X doesn't involve, because X can basically be anything. But it's Y that doesn't change. Y is sort of constant. Y is always 2. So it's a very special case. Try not to think of it, and you'll probably be okay now, but when we go to 7 and 8, we start looking at other forms of the lines, and we'll forget about this. But just remember, horizontal lines are a very simple creature. They're just y equals a number. That's all there is. And they're sort of a special case, and we use them fairly regularly, actually. Okay.
So then on the ordered pair, you put -5, 2 in the parentheses.
Yeah,
Line.
yeah. Yeah, so you could fill in and you'd see each of these ordered pairs. They could have various x values, but the y values will always be 2. Okay. So if that's true for horizontal lines, what do you think is going to be the case for vertical lines? Same thing, only different direction, right? It's going up and down instead of left and right. So when x equals -3, doesn't it make sense that we come to -3? We just go straight up. X doesn't change. X is always going to be -3. But y can be many different things. So again, as we go through here, x is -3, x is -3, x is -3. And we could choose any of the points we want to choose. We could go here, we could go here, we could take that one. So we see that x never changes. Y basically can take on any value. So there's just 3 of the points sort of randomly chosen. But x is, when we get a vertical line, x is always the number. And you don't see the y in there because y can basically be anything it wants. Vertical lines. Okay. So again, it's one of those things where it seems so simple, and you say, well, why do we make such a big deal about it? Because in a couple lessons you'll forget about it. You'll forget how simple it is, and it'll seem so complicated. But whenever we're talking about a vertical line, it's just x equal a number. That's the equation of a line, of a vertical line. Okay. Make sense? Yeah. Seems like more of making a big deal out of nothing. I think so. But again, when we start using them, though, they might seem a little bit harder to understand and to deal with. But that's all a vertical line is. It's a very simple critter. X equals a number. It's straight up and down. But we'll use them later on. And hopefully we still kind of remember how simple they were. Again, some U-tries. The hardest part is when you try to maybe go about plotting the points, coming up with ordered pairs. There's not much to work with. That's what makes horizontal and vertical lines so difficult, is there's just not much to work with. A horizontal line, there's no x, there's only the y. Okay, so if you try to plug in an x, can you do it? Not really, but let me help you out here. I'm going to show you there's actually an x. What makes things invisible in math? Good, 0, right? So I could think of this as the equation y equals -2 plus 0 times x. So every time I stick a number in for x, what's going to happen? 0, so it just disappears. So this might help in understanding what's really going on. It's not that there isn't an x, it's just that nobody's listening to x. Have you ever felt that way some days? Like you talk and talk and talk, but nobody's listening to you? That's what x feels like when on a horizontal line. Nobody listens to the x. He says a lot of stuff, but, or she, I don't know if it's a he or she, but what does y equal -2? Where would I put y equals -2?
On the y-axis, -2.
And then it's going to be what kind of a line?
Horizontal.
Horizontal line. So it's all the way along here. It's our horizontal line. Y equals -2. Okay. Notice y is always -2. And the way we accomplish this, we just kind of muffle out x. Whatever x is, it gets multiplied by 0. And that's really what's going on. I'll tell you what, it's so hard to work with when you don't have that. But now you think, okay, x just gets multiplied by 0. It becomes 0. Does that make sense? Because that's what 0 is like, the mathematical bomb. It just makes everybody go away. Everything disappears. When you multiply by 0, it just becomes 0. Okay. Yeah, we're just going through the media lessons. We're 6.4.
Thank you.
Horizontal.
Apologies for being
Sure. Okay, so that's horizontal lines. So think of it in this terms. And now, so you could choose any values you want for x, maybe like -3. Let's go with 1. Someone else got another number they'd like to plug in? 4. Why not? And now if you plug in -3 here, -3 times 0, 0, plus -2, -2. Let's plug in 1. 1 times 0, 0, plus -2. Plug in 4, 4 times 0, 0, -2. Doesn't that feel a little bit better? Is giving kind of an explanation of why x doesn't matter here, not just some magic. That's why, that's really what's going on. It's just, we usually just don't write these things in math, but you'll find out in the beginning it's good to have these things, okay? And you'd see that those are the ordered pairs. Here's -3, -2, here's 1, -2, and here's 4, -2. And again, there's a lot of other points we could have mentioned, but we only listed 3, okay, with the ordered pairs. But that's what's going on with a horizontal line. So far, so good? Okay. Great. Let's take a picture of that. And then we'll just look at the vertical lines again. But what's really going on, it's really x is equal to 4, but what's happening to y? Well, the same thing. We could really think of this as plus 0 times y. But 0 makes everything just invisible. It disappears mathematically. But it's really there in the seams. Okay. So again, you could go through the same thing when I plug in. We always think of plugging in for the x. So if I always put 4 in for x, how can I get different answers for y? Well, because y is getting multiplied by 0. Okay. And again, if we think of it, x equals 4, what is that? That is a vertical line. So part of it is you want to work back and forth. You just want to say this is a special case. X equals 4 is just a vertical line. And then now let's think what happens with the vertical line. Well, X is always 4. What's changing is the Y values. Think of it as if, see what are some north-south streets? You could, Scottsdale Road. You're driving up and down Scottsdale Road. You're always on Scottsdale Road, right? But what are you, well, I mean, not in real life, but I mean, if you're on Scottsdale Road and you're driving north or south, you're on Scottsdale Road, but what do you cross? Some other streets. Let's see, Scottsdale does go.
Camelback,
Yeah, you go other things, right?
Thomas,
But the road you're on stays at Scottsdale. Okay, you're on Hayden, same type of thing. You cross over some other roads. I can't even remember what they are now, but same thing. Okay, if you're going east and west, say on Camelback, what do? You cross over some north-south roads. You cross over Scottsdale,
except
Hayden.
Camelback stops at the 101.
Or it becomes invisible at the 101.
Oh, you could say that too. Where are you exactly, Mr. Littlecroft?
I'm not sure. We're in 6.4, and so we're just kind of working. If you,
Page 158.
thank you.
158, page
Because I
158.
wasn't finding. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
So
Ah, got it.
again, so vertical line, the important part of it, and X is always going to be the same. We could put almost anything in here we want for Y. And when we come over here and locate these, so go over 4 down to -1, there it is. Go over to 4 up to 2, that's on the line. Over to 4 up to 5, that's on the line. And the reason they can be on the line is because whatever Y is, it gets multiplied by 0, so it disappears. X is always going to be 4. It's like, you know, they ask for your advice, but then they don't use it. You've got friends like that, right? I do that all the time, too. I ask my friends for advice, but I'm going to do what I'm going to do anyway. So I was just being polite, right? So that's kind of how vertical and horizontal lines are. They're very simple, but their simplicity makes them hard to understand because of what's really going on. And again, it's just this sort of magic that happens when we multiply by 0. Part of it's getting multiplied by 0. And again, all of this will make a lot more sense as we go further and further into it, because this is just, again, a very special case. I think we're almost done, because I think that's basically where this looks up. Bless you. What I'm going to tell you is if you want, you can sort of skip section 6.6. Don't worry too much about it. We're going to do a couple of these together. This is a media lesson as well, but I'm just going to do a few of these that are linear, and if I spot one that I can spot that's not linear, I will tell you to skip it, because again, we're just looking for linear equations. Okay, so what we'll do first, though, is we'll do some axes. We'll put our, take this graphing area, make a y-axis and an x-axis. So they give us a few points here, they give us a point here, and then there's some missing y values, and what we're trying to do is look for patterns. Okay, that's kind of what this one is. This is kind of a problem-solving approach. So how about if we look, it might help us if we look both for a visual pattern as well as a numerical pattern. So let's see, -2, 3, where is that? Back 2, up to 3, is that right? -1, 4, is that right? And then 0, 5. Okay, so we've got those 3 points. Do you see sort of a pattern going on there? And then 3, 8. Let's see how that does it. So we go over 1, 2, 3, and then up 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Just left just enough room. Do you see kind of a pattern? What does that look like those points are on? Good. Because again, I told you that's all we're studying is lines. If they're not on lines, we're not going to deal with them. So you're right, it does appear to be a line. So if x is 1, what do you think y should be just looking at this pattern? Doesn't that make sense? It should be 6. Let's put it in and see if that works. And 2, if we go to 2, 1, 2, or should, to be on that line, it's got to be in 7, doesn't it? Good. And if we came back to negative 3, 1, 2, 3, where should it be? Well, it looks like it should stop about here, right? What's that?
2.
It's 2. So let's fill that in. And what we really did is we just sort of visually drew a line. Let's do it in that one.
Not 0, it would be 2.
Kind of connected them with the line. And we sort of anticipated here what we are. So as x goes up by 1, what's happening to y? How's y changing? Goes up by 1. And again, we sort of saw that pattern from here, 3 to 4, that's 1, 4 to 5, that's 1. And again, each one of these is going up by 1. Where does the graph sort of start? What's the vertical intercept?
0, 5.
0, 5. The vertical intercept in our reference world, we're referencing off the axis, the x and y axis. In our world, the vertical intercept is the starting point. So 0, 5. So watch this symbolic rule. Again, we'll learn about this more later. But the starting value is just, it's the value we start with. So would it make sense that we started at 5? This number, as x changes, this number in front of the x is going to be how the y changes. So as x goes up by 1, y is going to go up by 1. So would it make sense to take x and multiply it by 1 over 1? So sort of, if I say so, right? Okay. We're going to see, and maybe the next one, how this works. What we're going to do is we're going to plug in a few of these values. So we plugged in 2 here. We visually saw the pattern. It should have been 7, right? So we put a 7 in. What happens if we put it into this equation? So what if we took our y equals 1x plus 5? What's going to happen if we plug in 2 for x? Two times 1 is 2. 2 plus 5 is 2 plus 5.
Oh.
So when we plug in 2, we get 7 as our answer. And not only that, it also fits on the graph. And so that's kind of what they're getting us to do. What the intent, I know the intent of this pattern thing is when we get into, I think it's 7 and 8, we start looking at these, and especially 9, we start looking at finding slope and finding these equations. Lesson 10 will be doing it. It's hoped that by looking at these patterns, you kind of understand how this works. I don't think it really works that way, but
So we're finding and looking at what again?
patterns, linear patterns.
But you said something before that.
The slope.
Slope, yeah, you'll get,
Slopes.
yeah, stuff you'll, when we get to lessons 9 and 10, we'll talk
What
about
was the word you called it? Slope?
slope
Slope. Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you.
and
Okay,
the
my
equation
little
of the
hearing.
lines. Yeah. Okay.
So do we need to do all that work if we understand it? Can we just do it? Or do you want us to actually go through the y equals 1/1 times 5 in order to figure it out? I mean, if we get the pattern, if we can figure out the pattern,
What do I want?
yes. What do you want?
I'm not sure. Let's look at the next one and I'll tell you. I'm okay with you not doing these. Let me put it that way. However, some of you will find that these are maybe more valuable than others. Let's see, this one's going to be hard because it's got the fractions, so I'm going to skip this one.
But it's going up by half.
Yeah, good. Okay.
That's what I'm saying. I
You
mean,
could see it, huh?
yeah.
Okay. So you can see it's going up by half. That's what we're looking for, is the pattern of how they're going up. Okay. I guess in my experience, I spent a little time on these ones. And this one I'm going to say don't do because I can tell you right now it goes down and then it comes back up. So this is actually a quadratic. It's really a hard pattern to see. And again, it's not one that's going to be one that we're going to use. Okay, so this one definitely skip.
So but 9's going down by 5, and then you have 0 and 1, which would be your lower bottom part, and then 9 and 16 are going up by 5, so you'd have to just figure out what the other two intersects would be.
Yeah, but it's much more convoluted than that.
It's easy like that.
Yeah, but see, and this one isn't even linear.
And the
I
one.
could figure it out.
Yeah, you see the 5 here.
And the 1 1.
Yeah, but here it's only changing by 1, so
Yeah.
this is not even linear. That's why this one doesn't help. And this one, it's okay. And then we get to our practice problem. So I think what I would suggest is that don't look at 3, but look at example 2 on the mini lesson. They'll walk you through it. And I think what you were saying is, yes, I'm perfectly happy if you can just sort of spot the patterns of as x goes up by 1, y is going up by so much, because that's really what it's building for. I'll also be honest with you, these aren't going to be on the test. There won't be a test question like this, spot the pattern, because these are terrible test questions. And I'll bet you, though, what I've done is I come back to these once we do like lesson 9, and then they make a lot more sense. And we have a way of working with them. Okay. But right now, it's just look for patterns and what's a symbolic rule? Well, that's just an equation. But until we've worked with it, it's kind of hard to, know what to do. Okay. So we've done a one-time covering. If it helped, great. If it didn't, that's fine too. We'll get a more deeper look at it. But I want to kind of do this as a first-time run-through. Okay. And what you're going to see is all lines, they start at the vertical intercept, as that's what we're going to do. That's our starting point. And then y and x have a constant way of changing. There's that whatever the ratio is to get from one point to the next point, that ratio will get you to another point. Okay, and that's the thing we call slope. And we'll deal with that more later. So what's the big issues from tonight? Horizontal and vertical intercepts. So a horizontal intercept is what? Y is 0. A vertical intercept? It's a 0. A horizontal line. What do we know? How do we know when we have a horizontal line? The equation will be
Y equals whatever number.
good. So a horizontal line, let's get rid of this. And how can we characterize, so we've got like an example of y equals, say, 3. What's another way we could think of that? Where's the x? What's the way that we can think about this that helps us understand what's happening to x?
Times it by x0.
Plus. Because if we multiplied by x0, then everything would be 0. So we add 0 times x. Good. Okay. So that's just kind of, that's the missing part, but that sort of explains how a horizontal line is just y equals 3. Because that's all you're going to see. They'll give you y equals 3, and you'll have to remember that's a horizontal line. Okay. Vertical lines. Same thing, only the other directions. So instead of y equals a number, we get x equals a number. And it's like y is invisible, and yes, it sort of is. So x equals 5. The way we want to think of it, there's really a plus 0y. And so whatever y is gets multiplied by 0, so it disappears. Okay. So that kind of gives you the answer of what's happening to y. It's just getting multiplied by 0. That's why you never see it. Okay. And again, all you'll see is x equals 5. What you need to do is kind of supply this part if it's helpful for your way of thinking. The y is still there, but it's always getting multiplied by 0, so that's what makes it disappear. And again, right now it's probably not seeming like a big issue, and you're saying, why are we doing this? It's because when you get down the road, they'll start throwing in horizontal lines, vertical lines, and they're different. And we're going to see when we work with other types of lines, there's a lot more to work with. These are missing some parts, so but they're a valuable part of understanding lines. Okay, so what are we doing on Wednesday? Some of you are not coming in because those that are coming in, what are you going to be ready for? To retake the test. Okay, and if you're not ready to retake, so it's an open day. If you want to just come and study, you're welcome to do. You're always welcome to come. I don't know how many people are going to retake it. I'll just have enough copies printed up. If you want to retake the test, it's an open day to do it. If you want to take more time to study and take it later, I'll still make those opportunities. It just might not be during class time. But if you feel like you could get ready and retake the test, it'll be the same format, same 15 questions, just the numbers will be changed slightly. But 15 or 25 questions. This one's 20. I got mixed up with my other class. These are 25 questions. Okay. And it's still 10 minutes to 8, so.
So were you gonna?
Yeah, if you'd like to. So now the time, I'm going to stop the live stream. Anyone who's here, I've got all the tests, and you'll be welcome to look them over. Again, I just have to make sure everything's away so that, security.
So can we pull out the practice test?
Yes, you may.
Mark it.
Yes, you can pull out the practice test. I'll do that.